Hey guys, what's going on? It's Colin here again, back with another engine video. This is an engine that has appeared a couple times on my channel, but for those of you guys who haven't seen the previous videos on it, this is a 1920s Ideal Model V engine. It would have originally powered an Ideal reel mower, actually. But basically, I'll give a little quick recap. So, a couple years ago, I went to the Long Island Anti-Power Association show for the first time showing my own engines. And I got to know some nice people there, one of them being my buddy Brad. And he contacted me shortly after the show because he had some Gravely parts that I needed. And he said, "Oh, I also got a couple engines that you can have if you want them." So I said, "Sweet." This was one of the engines he had. I originally got it, and it didn't look all that different, but it's definitely an engine that's got a bit of a story behind it, because this thing's been pieced together over the years. But when I first got it, it had a Model T carburetor on here for like a Ford Model T car, and there was a Briggs gas tank that was up over here like this. The fan was missing, the oiler was missing, and probably a couple other things. Had a weird intake spring, no muffler. He said he had it running, but it hadn't run in a little while. So I took it and I started tinkering with it, and I did get it to run, but it ran quite poorly for a while. I ended up tinkering with this thing for over a year and a half before I finally got it right. So in that time, what I've done is I made up a fan for it. This is actually an old Gravely fan I cut down, and this is a bolt that goes through there, and I drilled a hole this way and two other holes out, and I tapped and put a little grease cup on there. And this is a pulley and a piece of pipe that I welded together. That's just there because I need to weld shut the little hole that's in the pulley that would have been for the set screw, because otherwise you squeeze the grease in and it just flings right out. I've also messed with all the timing of everything you could on this engine, including spark timing, exhaust valve timing. I've played with the exhaust valve gap. I've played with intake valve springs. Finally got a good one. Messed around with a whole bunch of different carburetors. Put an oiler on it. Actually had a new brass bushing made here for the cam, because the cam at some point came loose because I was an idiot and I forgot to tighten this bolt one time when I was playing with it, and the cam came loose and it hit the crank and it completely broke the original brass bushing. So I had a new one of those made. Luckily the cam was alright. Got an oiler for it, put that on, made a muffler. That's actually just a pipe flange with a piece of aluminum that my friend CNC'd for me. Although you don't really need a CNC to do it, it made it a lot easier to get the nice circle. I rigged up a different gas tank for it, because the Briggs one had like one of those screw valves and that would shut off after you ran it for a while. Because this is not a balanced engine, and it likes to jump around quite a lot, which is why I have it on my big welding cart here. Also started experimenting with a way to balance it. In this tube there are a bunch of ball bearings, and that helps to balance it. It's not quite heavy enough though, so I'm going to make another one at some point and put it inside here. But that wasn't my idea, by the way. I got to give credit where it's due. that idea, and also just a crap ton of help, came from a very nice guy named Joe, who was helping me through Facebook. And he is really the reason I got this thing to where it is now, because this thing was quite a mess when I got it, and even after I'd done a bunch of work to it, it still was not running right, and he helped me for a very long time to finally get this thing running right. And then the other big thing I did was I did rings, because while it felt like it had good compression, when I checked the ring gap, you could probably measure it in inches instead of thousandths. So went ahead and did that. But after all that work and about a year and a half of tinkering, I finally have this thing running right. So figured I'd just do this quick little update on this thing, show you guys it running like it should. And yeah, just like I said, giving a quick little update. If this video seems a tad rushed, it's because I realized that I am out of my video stockpile, which is why there wasn't a video last week. And I'm trying to record one quickly to get it up for you guys, because I'm working on a couple projects that have been running real long, much longer than I anticipated, kind of like that Fuller & Johnson over there, sneak peek. And I just want to finish them up before I post a video, but I haven't exactly had a lot of time. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this thing up and show you guys it running. And I will mention that at some point in the very near future, I'm going to be getting a real nice round gas tank for this thing that would look very close to the original. I'm going to pipe it with a copper line that will make it look a little better. But yeah, it's just a very neat engine. You don't see a whole ton of these around. And it's also, like I said, it's got one hell of a story behind it. Like, I'll give you an example. That intake plate really doesn't look quite like a factory piece to me. That looks like a farmer repair to me. Kind of interesting. It's just a piece of brass that was cut out kind of jaggedly, might add, and tapped in for a pipe and just bolted on along with that Model T carburetor. Just kind of interesting. But anyways, enough rambling. Gonna go ahead and put you guys up on the tripod and we'll try and fire this thing up. Alright, so this is most certainly a cold start because it's only about 27 degrees out today. And this hasn't been running in a little while now. So we'll see how it fires up. Now, you know, it would help to choke it. And now it's primed up. Almost. Spark timing on these things is actually quite advanced, so it will kick back a decent amount. That's why I kind of push the valve in here and get past the compression when I'm starting it. That way I can get these reels going up enough where it won't, you know, kick back on me. There we go. She's alive. Hopefully it'll stay running. I have noticed so far, after getting this thing running pretty decently, at least, it does kind of like rev up and down as it runs. So like it'll be running and all of a sudden it will kind of speed up a little bit and then it will almost die out, and then it will die out. So I think it's definitely not quite perfect yet, but it's definitely better than it was. Also, these rings don't have a lot of hours on them, so they haven't fully seated in yet. You notice it pushes a lot of oil out the exhaust and it hits the flywheel and flings out. But I think once the rings seat in a little better, that will be fixed. But as for the like kind of, I don't want to call it surging because it's not quite that fast. It will kind of like speed up and then slow down. I'm not entirely sure what causes that, but let's see if we'll fire up again. I did turn the throttle up a tad. Let it warm up a little bit, running a bit faster. I think part of the reason it speeds up like that is that, or slows down, I think that the shaking of it messes with the float in the carburetor a little bit, because occasionally it will go real slow and it will spit raw gas out the intake of the carburetor. So I think that's definitely part of it. But there's not a whole lot I can do about that except for maybe trying that new balancer. Just went to turn the throttle down a tad. I may have turned it down a bit too much though. Go ahead and zoom you guys in here. This is an interesting engine. It's a headless engine, so the whole thing comes off as a jug, but the valves are right on top of each other. You can see, like, the intake valve is right up here, and then the exhaust valve is right below it. They're like this, and then the piston would be like over here. Just kind of interesting. But you can see them moving and stuff, which I always found cool. Intake valve is atmospheric. And while it doesn't sound like it's running particularly smoothly, this is about as good as I've had it running in a very long time. And I've found with these engines, and the ones I've seen online too, I've talked to a bunch of other people who own these, they kind of have to warm up for a while. Once they get warm, you can turn the throttle down a bit and they'll putt real nice. But I think this engine would generally run better with a bit of a load on it. But I'm not going to complain. If it stays running, even if it's a tad rough like this, if it stays running long enough that it will run all day at a show, I'll be happy with it. Maybe at some point I'll figure out something that belts up to it, or put a pulley on it or something so I can run a load on it. But for now, I think this is about as good as it's going to get. Besides like cosmetic stuff, like I said, like a new gas tank and whatnot. I'm going to take you guys off the tripod now and do a little walk around. You don't ever want to get too close to that fan. That fan will definitely do a number on you. I think once the rings seat in a bit better, it will help with the smoke and the oil burning too. But go ahead and turn the throttle down a bit. You see, there's the intake valve, atmosphere, the exhaust valve down there, and that nut that's spinning down in there, that's actually the camshaft. See our drip oiler there, oiling the rings. The other side with the crank breather. There's really not a lot of info out there on these engines. I don't think they're a very common engine either. But I have no clue what year this was made. A bunch of the guys that own these think they're from the 20s. But as far as I know, there's no like serial number list or anything. I don't even know if this engine has one serial number on it. It's got a couple like different numbers on it. Like it's got a couple numbers on it, but they're all different. It's kind of strange. Like you can look here on the cylinder there. And the casting, it says V-4. But like somewhere else, I forget exactly where they all are. On the intake here, it will say like V37 or V133, I think. And on here it says V-1. So I don't really think those are serial numbers. I think they're more like casting numbers or something. But again, I'm not entirely sure. If anybody out there has any info on these engines, please let me know. I'd really like to know about it. But I'm just very happy to finally see this thing running consistently. Even if it's not exactly the smoothest running engine, it's just running consistently and it's staying running for long periods of time. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm also pretty happy with that little muffler. I stole that idea from another YouTuber. He actually owns one of these engines. I'll put a link to the channel down below. But he used this muffler on one of his hit and miss engines. And I'm pretty happy with it for this engine. It sounds good and I like it. And it looks kind of similar, or at least it's the right shape and size of the original one. The original one would have been a big cast iron muffler. It would have been about this, it would have been like a cylinder. It probably would have come out to about there. But I think it fits. But I think adding that other bigger balancer on the inside of that flywheel will definitely smooth things out a bit, because this cart weighs quite a bit and you can see the things are shaking quite a bit down there. The whole cart is really shaking a bit. You can actually try putting a load on it here. I don't want to stall it though. And if you guys notice that rattling sound, that's just this fan. I probably got to put a little grease in it. When it gets dry, it starts making like a rattling noise. Could also be the stuff on the table vibrating a bit, but you could try and turn the throttle down even more. It might die out though. I should also mention that that carburetor is not original. That's a Bendix Strongberg. I think it came off a Wisconsin engine, but it does run well. Apparently, the story I've heard with these things is that the original Tillerson carburetors nobody liked, so they were all replaced. This one certainly was. Like I said, it had a Model T Ford carburetor on it, so I don't mind putting a different carburetor on it. But the original gas tank would have had a bracket similar to this, not quite as big, and it would have been a round gas tank. So I'm definitely going to get a round gas tank for it and run a copper line. I think that will look a little better. Because right now it still looks a tad pieced together. But I think once I do that, it will be pretty good. It's actually putting along pretty good right now. I've never had it running, like, I've had it running a little slower than this, but it usually dies out. So, it's not bad. But it's certainly a unique one. But I'm going to go ahead and shut her down. Go ahead and turn the oiler off. And turn the gas off too. That was a pretty good little run for this thing. So there you go. I was trying to show you that earlier. I don't know if you could see it. It says V-4 there. Up on here. It says CS1, I think. Right down in there. I don't know if you guys can read that or not. Here it says C-1. Or V-1, sorry. So like I said, there are a couple of random numbers on this, but I don't really know if they have any significance. But anyways guys, thank you all for watching. Sorry about the kind of lack of content recently. I'm going to try my best to film some more videos when I get a little free time, but that's been kind of scarce recently. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. If any of you guys have any info on this, please let me know. Me and the other guys that own these would love to know. But anyways, thank you all for watching. If you like what you see, hit the little like and subscribe buttons. By all means, leave a comment if you have one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.